just tell
Boom.
me, chat with me in the room.
Nope. We can't hear you.
So we're now live. We are live now. Woo! Yay! So we're live on both Facebook.
All right, here we go.
And YouTube. Right. Okay, let me pull it up.
I've learned a lot, and I've followed my passion.
It's principles of passion.
Hey, Chris, are you gonna run the thing? This is the worst. That's okay, y'all. Look, all our live viewers, it happens.
I've learned a lot, and I've followed my passion.
It's principles of passion.
I have a dream.
With hosts Chris Thomas.
Well, I think when you're building something new from scratch, there's a lot of things that can go right, that can go wrong.
And Mickey Grace.
I'm looking forward to giving back to the community in a way and creating space for the community in a way that we haven't seen before.
In order to follow your dreams,
I have a dream today.
You have to put your passion first.
This week, Chris and Mickey pull up a chair with Colette Gunham, an ultra-talented filmmaker based in Chicago and the co-founder of Mezcla Media Foundation. And this week, Chris and Mickey.
Okay, welcome. It didn't go all the way through, Chris, but we'll just jump in and start. Welcome. Good evening. I'm so excited for us to be back for episode 2 of Principles of Passion. I'm Mickey Grace, and you see my co-host, Chris Thomas. We got some Zoom issues going on, some internet issues going on today, but we're going to hold it down the best that we can. We're going to hold it down the best that we can. So I'm super excited because today we have an awesome conversation with 2 awesome, dope folks that I recently met. We're going to be talking about building community for creatives.
All right, y'all, go ahead. We're getting there. One day at a time.
We got it.
We're going to be having a conversation about building community for creatives of color. Let me just check to make sure that on Facebook things are going right. I know Colette and Shaquille, y'all like, this is crazy.
We are filmmakers. We're all about it's like when technology starts to acclimate. We know.
Adaptability is our middle name.
No judgment here.
I heard that. Okay, give me 1 second, y'all. I just want to make sure that it's up and live.
Adaptability is our middle name.
Live on Facebook. Oh, is that my voice?
Okay, give me 1 second, y'all. I just want to make sure that it's up. Okay, yeah, we're definitely live for sure.
Oh, is that my voice?
Okay, cool. We are definitely live. Okay, awesome.
Everything.
Hey, Chris, if you just want to go ahead and put your background on mute because I hear it coming through. Okay, awesome.
Everything.
Hey, Chris, if you just want to go ahead and put. Boom, perfect. Okay.
Can y'all hear?
Let's get started. Okay, so like I mentioned, welcome. I'm so excited to be having this conversation today about building community for creatives of color. Last week we had a super dope panel, and this week we have an even super doper panel. So I'm very, very excited. Before we jump in, I want to take a moment to introduce our awesome guest. Starting with Colette Gunham. Colette lies at the cross-section of social impact and visual storytelling. Her first documentary, The People's Girls, received over 2 million views and Best Short Documentary at the Arab Film Festival for its bold spotlight on street harassment in Egypt. She is entering co-production, or have you entered co-production yet, Colette?
It's in the process.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. So Colette is in the process of a co-production with Cardam Quinn Films on Traces of Home, her first feature-length film documenting her journey back to Mexico and Palestine to locate her parents' original homes, which they were forced to leave decades ago. Colette's work has been highlighted on international outlets such as Huffington Post, Al Jazeera, Univision, and TED. Colette is also the super dope co-founder of Men's Club Media Collective, a nonprofit organization that lifts up 500 women of color and non-binary filmmakers in the city of Chicago. Welcome, Colette.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
We're so excited to have you. So happy to have you. Next up, we have Shaquille Roberts. Hey, Shaquille, how you doing?
Hey, hi. How's it going?
Good, it's going. So let me introduce you all to Shaquille. Shaquille is a local filmmaker with a BFA in digital filmmaking and video production from the Illinois Institute of Art, Chicago. As a writer, she has had various works published in the Chicago Tribune, as well as True Star magazine. During her studies, she assisted in production TV shows with WTTW Channel 11. Shaquille has written and produced her own independent film and commercial. Her film has been screened in film festivals and media shows across Chicago, and she recently developed work as an independent filmmaker, director, and producer, and is currently in post-production for her short film, Let It Go, set to release in 2020. Shaquille, I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you so much, Mickey. I'm glad to be here.
And one thing that I also want to say about Shaquille, and the reason why I was so excited about bringing Shaquille and Colette onto this platform to have a conversation, is that Shaquille is a member of Men's Club, and she's also in the leadership team. She's very active in Men's Club, and I think that this is a dope opportunity for us to have a conversation about what it looks like to be a part of a community like Men's Club. So let's jump into our topic. Okay, y'all. So let me the first question, right, is I want to hear a little bit about each of your stories, right? And how do they connect to Men's Club? What got you here? And let's go ahead and start with Shaquille, and we'll go Colette.
Okay. So I'm from the south side of Chicago. I grew up in Inglewood, which is like the roughest neighborhood in Chicago. So I never really had like a support system or like a community. And even being in college, being a film student, like I never really felt connected. I never really felt good enough. And so when I was introduced to Colette at a industry event, and she was telling me about this community of women of color in film, like I really knew that it was something that I wanted to be a part of, because I've never had that. I've never really felt like I really fit in this industry. A lot of people in this industry don't look like me. And so to know that there's a community of people who look like me, who are like doing what I'm doing and like breaking down barriers, that's what really made me want to be a part of Men's Club. And when I attended the event and just seeing the community, it made me want to do more and help out the community and actually be like one of the driving forces behind actually like making this a success. And I'm very active in Men's Club. I really believe in the mission and everything that they do. So that's kind of how I got here.
You know, it's so interesting how, like, I always think about how our the places where we traverse bring us to the communities that we need to be a part of, because I too also found out about Men's Club at like an industry event, and I didn't know anything about Men's Club. I had no idea that there was a community of like women of color filmmakers in the city of Chicago, and I was feeling so alone and so lost. So it's so interesting to hear about how you came across Men's Club. So Colette, I wanna go over to you, because I'm very interested in hearing two things. How does hearing these stories, right, from your members about like let's take Shaquille for example. She like, I'm from Inglewood, one of the roughest neighborhoods, like, and I found Mess Club. How does hearing these stories make you feel as a co-founder? And then as you talk about that, I want to hear a little bit about your journey towards building this.
Totally. So first of all, I'm like so grateful for this platform, even to share about Mezcla too. I'm just like super grateful. So thank you, Mickey and Chris, for allowing us to be on here. So as Shaquille mentioned, we met back in the day in like a filmmaker meetup, and the reason that we really started Mezcla was because coming from marginalized communities and communities that are already the most vulnerable, we all have a shared history of stolen identities, erased histories, being at the bottom of the totem pole, oftentimes, and just being ignored in so many spaces, and being able to put ourselves in the center as not just like a we should just help these people out, but as powerful people and like as leaders of an industry, which we all already are, but that these places and these doors aren't opening for us, so making our own was really, really important. And so we started it back in 2017 because we saw this gap in the Chicago film industry that we just couldn't find other women and non-binary filmmakers to work with in projects. So we decided to create an event at Cinespace specifically for women and non-binary filmmakers of color, and over 70 people showed up. So from there, we're like, holy cow, like the energy in the room was just out of this world. And we're like, we have to keep this going. We have to figure out a way to make it sustainable. So since then, now it's grown to over 500 members, and we have an amazing leadership circle that has really made it flourish, and that Shaquille is a part of as well, to not only advance people's careers, but to actually build a family in the Chicago film industry between us. Because something that is also really important is like really tapping into the feminine energy that we're in, and like we know how to be in community with one another and how to create together and how to really work as a collective, and really tapping into that to raise all of our voices up is super important.
You know, it's such a simple thing to see a need and then just address the need, right? And I love to hear kind of like this origin story around Mez Club, because that's all it was. We saw a need and we addressed the need. And I think that, you know, it's so interesting because I feel like nowadays people can make solutions to things so complex. Over complex. And I'm like, well, you know, people just actually want to be in community with each other. They just actually want to kick it and hang out. So Colette, as you think about, so 2017 is 2020 now, and you all have seen the organization has flourished, you know, in so many different ways. Can you talk about what are some of the challenges that you have had to overcome with building Mez Club?
Yeah, so I think there were maybe three. There were three main challenges that we had to overcome. Number one was that both me and my co-founder had never made a nonprofit or knew how nonprofits work. So really learning that from scratch. In the beginning, we were very intentional to just make it a more informal collective, but now being very intentional around, we want to keep this sustainable and like raising funds and learning how to raise funds and get grants and that sort of thing. The other thing that we learned was that as the community started growing faster and faster, there was only so much we could do to put on programming by ourselves and to try to keep up with social media and make a newsletter. It was like it was impossible. So we're like, maybe we can try to get some Mezcla leaders that have already taken a step up. Like Shaquille just came with this idea of like a monthly accountability meetup. So like these natural born leaders to actually gather together and like really try to use our assets to build up from within Mezcla. And I think that's it. I don't know what the third one was. So
that was good.
We'll just go with those two.
Really good. That was really good. And I wanna just hear what you're thinking as you hear that, Shaquille, you know, as like that asset, that leader who came and kind of was like, let's make this pop, right?
Yeah,
Like, what was the driving force behind that, you know, and what does this mean to you? Just hearing Colette talk about this.
Well, can I just go back a step to like when you were talking about how they like kind of fulfilled the need, you know, and it made me think of like how much we didn't know that we needed. You know, like it's just so normal for us to kind of like not know many people that look like us that are doing film, or like it's just so normal for us. So I never really knew that I needed this community until it was the answer to my problem. And I was like, wow, you know, so just being able to be the solution to a problem that we didn't know was a problem. And I think like that's like my driving force of like Mesca has helped me so much, and I'm very much a person who like always pays it forward. So I'm not gonna like just keep the help and the resources for myself. Like I want to be a part of this so that I can give it to the next person and the next person. Like I said, I'm from Inglewood, and it's not an easy place to get out of. Mentally, it's not an easy place to get out of. So to be surrounded by so many creative people and so many incredible people and like be a part of that meant a lot to me, and I would like to give that to the next person.
You know, it's so interesting because something that I have, like, in one way that just being a part of Mayor's Club has opened my eyes is I realized that, right, you can't be what you can't see. And a lot of times we see these front. You can't be what you can't see. You can't be what you can't see, you know. And I feel like in the media, entertainment, filmmaking space, we always see these positions that are like on air, right? We see these like front facing positions, but we don't ever see, it's not often that we see that there are options behind the scenes. You know, that there are roles that there are roles and jobs and positions that like you would never even think of unless you have that community surrounding you. So when I think about like Shaquille, this is a really great segue because I was wondering when I was coming up with the questions, how has being a part of Mayor's Club, how long have you been a part of Mayor's Club?
I want to say it's been like over a year now. Yeah.
Okay, so talk to me about like how has being a part of Mayor's Club helped you further your creative artistic career? And talk to me a little bit about where you were before Mayor's Club and where you are now.
Okay. Yeah, I think being a part of Mayor's Club, the greatest gift that I got being a part of this community is just being fearless with my creativity. And I think that that's where I was before here. I knew that I was creative. I went to school for this. So it's like, I know that I have it in me, but I'm scared. These people don't look like me. They don't talk like me. Like they don't understand what I'm saying. And so having that community and having and being a part of Mescla like really created inspiration in me in being fearless. I've seen so many people and Mescla do so many great things that was like, wow, I never even knew that I could be in the space with a person who would even go after this. And so it only natural to spark something in me to be like, wow, she just was just in a film festival, or she just won a pitch competition. Like, I can't even believe these people are doing stuff like this. It's something that I would never consider. And we fast forward to now, and I'm like, film festivals, trailers, like I'm doing everything now. I'm like I'm fearless. I'm like, like nothing can stop me because I've seen so many people do it. So many people like me who I've sat next to do it and be great at it and be successful at it. So for me, I'm like, wow, she looks like me and she can do it. Why can't I?
So Colette, did you all have this in mind when did you have this in mind? Because what I really hear, like Shaquille talking about is creative confidence. Did you all have this in mind? What were the things? Yeah, talk to me about that. Like, what are the things you all had in mind?
Yeah, I mean, that's an amazing story, Shaquille. And definitely our goal was to be able to create these relationships and connections for people to really feel inspired and empowered to do it themselves too. So definitely that was a huge goal of ours, but there's only so much we can do as two people. The community took it on its own, like people are working together, collaborating together, getting jobs that just were not even a thing before. We have one member who had just moved to Chicago and had no idea how to enter into the industry, and because she came to our monthly meetup, she was able to get an internship at like Cinespace, which is the top production hub, and now she works as like a coordinator for major shows, and that just like doesn't happen easily for communities of color, and specifically women of color. So we're so happy to be able to like have just this platform that has grown organically too. That was our real goal, was like to make it so that the Mezcla members are the ones that are fulfilling their dreams together. Yeah.
So Colette, did you have any and that's I'm about to get curious with y'all. Did you have any did you have any challenges, I guess I would say, gaining recognition as an organization, right? In a city of Chicago, in a world where we know that like it is challenging for people of color to gain access to these spaces and rooms. Did you have any trouble with that?
So the benefit is that since both me and my co-founder are sort of in the film community, we were able to advocate from within for Mezcla, and that was a huge benefit to like already have, if people are interested in creating communities, like really starting to think about who are your community partners first, and like starting to pitch the idea to them to be like, we have this thing, could we have it at your event space? And then they're like, oh, what is this thing? And then they watch in and they're like, holy cow, this is amazing. Like they tell their other community organizations about it. So that's how we gained a lot of community partners for Mezcla. And the big vision is to be able to have it be a national organization with like branches throughout the US. And having like Chicago be sort of like the HQ. And now our big goal is to be able to like connect to these outside organizations as well that are bigger, like Canon, Sony, or like Sundance, that are really being able to bring industry leaders to Chicago women, and then also support nationally as well.
Yeah, and I love that this is a thing too, because I just learned today that with like Netflix, you have to shoot your films with certain cameras and things like that. And I had come across someone who was trying to get money to buy this certain camera, and I was just like, man, like, and this is another barrier right here.
Yep, there it is.
This is another barrier right here. But the one thing that I'll say about like Mezcla, when I joined, okay, here we go. So I used to have I struggle sometimes with like asking for help. I struggle sometimes with asking for help. And when I joined Mezcla, it was like the first week, people was like, hey, can you help me with this? Hey, do anybody want to partner on this? I'm looking for that.
Yeah.
Do you all feel that has been the culture? Like Shaquille, thinking about, becoming a member, do you feel like this has been the culture? And then we'll go to Colette, because I want to talk about, is that culture organic culture, or is that something you all had to kind of, hone in on and nurture?
Well, Colette knows I'm always like, ask your community. Anytime anybody came to like the monthly meetups, and I host the monthly meetups, and anytime anybody came, they was like, oh, I want to be a PA, or I want to learn this, or I need somebody to do this. I'm always like, post in the group, post on Mezcla, ask your community, because people don't know unless you ask. And these are the people who can relate to you the most. So I always like stress to like ask your community. And I always been one to post in the group many times to say, hey, who can help me, or hey, who can I help?
Yeah. And I would definitely say that happened organically as well. Like as we've created this platform, it really happened organically that people just really took it on their own to be able to collaborate, saying, "Oh, I want to work on this project. Anyone know how to do sound?" And then somebody's like, "Oh, I'd love to help out." We just watch it, and it's just amazing to see how generous people are with their time and energy to really lift others up. Yeah, I feel so grateful to even be part of it. Like too.
Well, y'all need to create a guide. Go ahead, Shakia.
And you know what? It just I forgot. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's okay. It happens. So look, y'all. On last
And so,
week's
actually,
episode,
can I
Go
mention
ahead.
one more thing?
Of course.
The other thing is that the reason I really feel like this is actually happening, and I know a lot of times we just don't want to look dumb in this industry and be like, a lot of people go on sets and crews and people just don't feel comfortable asking questions. But Mezcla is a safe space for you to ask your dumb questions that are not dumb, that we all have to learn as emerging filmmakers, and that you feel totally comfortable asking those people, like, what is a pitch deck? It's the space. It's the space for it, and people have really started to feel that, which is a huge goal of ours, and we're so happy that it's feeling like that too.
Yeah, I love that particularly because so me, y'all, my background is in political science and workforce development, and it was kind of like recently I gained this passion for media, entertainment, filmmaking, and my biggest struggle was around like definitions of stuff. Like everybody's like, I'm a producer. And I'm a producer. And I'm a producer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, what does a producer actually do?
Yeah.
And I felt like there were certain rooms I was in before I became a part of Mezcla where I felt like, it was a little bit of shaming to not know.
Right.
Yeah. And like
totally
scared to say like you don't know. And when I started the accountability, like the monthly meetup, I started me and Colette talked about it because I was terrible at accountability. And I was like, this is the only way that I would be able, and like, how did I become the head of accountability? Like, and I'm so terrible at it. But I just feel like the community welcomes you. The community is like, it's okay if you don't know. A lot of us don't know. And we sit in these meetings and we're scared to say we don't know because we're the person of color and everybody else seems to know. So it's like, oh, let me put on a smile and put on some confidence and act like I know. And then you get in the and you're like, hey, what's a pitch deck? And you know what? Not only will they tell you what it is, they will send you an example. They'll send you they'll give you those resources.
And that is so important. Last week we talked about I was just saying there's a huge difference between making people feel empowered and actually empowering people.
Right.
When you empower people, you give them the tools that they need to do what they need to do.
It's true.
So I want to ask y'all this because last week we talked about the creative divide, the need for access and innovation, the creative economy, the need for access and innovation. And part of that conversation was about the creativity divide. And I'm pretty sure like you all have heard about the opportunity divide, the digital divide. But I haven't seen a lot of research. I haven't heard a lot of people talking about the creativity divide and really defining that. So when you hear that, what comes to mind for you?
So for me personally, I know that you said like for last week that they were talking about competition was the thing. And when we speak about Mezcla, I mean, really, it's not a thing of competition. We're definitely like all about collaboration. And like I think there's a very deep understanding that if one of our voices gets put to the surface, then all of us get put to the top. And like really trying to help each other benefits us all. And what I mean, being part of a group for women and non-binary filmmakers of color, which is already a terribly marginalized group in the industry, the creative divide happens when we just don't have the financial or the mental capacity to really be able to work on our creativity and staying sustainable in an industry where being a freelancer is very hard. Having a full-time job while also making a film is really impossible. And like, if you don't have the resources to do that, it becomes very difficult to be creative. And that's where the divide happens. So that's why we're so happy to like have Mezcla be a resource to like keep that creative energy flowing and like try to provide resources by allowing different freelance gigs to pop up on people's statuses and things like that. So that's what I think is really the issue with sustainability as being a creative, especially as a woman of color.
Shaquille, what's your thoughts?
I think that before I came to Mezcla, I was very like stingy with my resources, and I was very like I didn't want people to know what I know or know more than what I know, or you already know more and I'm giving you what I got, so now you got what I got plus what you got, so you better than me type thing. And I think that being in Mezcla taught me about like collaboration, and like Colette said, if one of us makes it, if one of our voices is heard, like we're all heard in some type of way. So I think that that's like very important for people to like, especially people of color, to like realize that it's not really a competition. Like we all have our own path to walk, and we all have our own stories to tell. And so there's enough room for everybody.
And I love that you say that, because like creativity, filmmaking, media is such a collaborative effort.
Yeah.
You
Oh yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
I remember when we were at the happy hour, and me and you, Shaquille, was talking about how like we'll be trying to be the writer, the producer, the editor, the boom
holding the boom mic and running sound and you just gotta be everything.
Man, Chris, how you doing over there?
You know, he's just hanging out. We tried. We tried.
Okay, so Chris dropped a question in here. If we want a more sustainable community, we need a more creative and innovative society. What are the implications for individuals, cities, governments, and organizations? What y'all think?
That is an excellent question.
What does implications mean? Look.
I think I can add a little note about that. Maybe I'll think some more after this little note that I give. I definitely think around creativity and innovative societies, the only way to do that is to have a creative and innovative base that you're going off of. So if you have everyone who looks the same and thinks the same and has the same backgrounds, then how are you going to have innovation or creativity? And the only way to do that is by including other people from different perspectives, with different backgrounds, to allow that to happen. And not only having it be diverse, but also inclusive, and actually being able to listen to those different perspectives, because too often we say, okay, we got our token Latina, we got our token Black person, we got our token this, and then the person says something and they're like, whoa, what, you speak? Like that's not okay, like we don't agree with that. And then what was the point of it? So really being able to have diversity but also inclusion in all sectors to create this creative, innovative society.
Yeah. I love what you're saying. And I think, like, you know, I know when we were at the restaurant, we were talking a little bit about just equity. And when I think about equity, you know, I think we think about equity a lot of times just in the sense of money.
Yeah.
But for me, I can't think about equity in the sense of like power sharing, right?
Totally.
Like, how are we demonstrating equitable power sharing when we're at the table? How are we mobilizing our own privilege to activate someone else's voice?
Yes.
And I think those are the kinds of things that I would love to see more of. And I want to know, like, just from you all, how do we get there? Because I think we done talked enough about what the issue is. How do we get to that kind of like equitable power sharing, equitable access to resources? What you got, Shaquille? What you think?
I think Colette talked about like just like inclusion, being open to other people, being open to other people's stories, being open to other people's resources, like things like that. Like you have to be open across the board. Like you said, this is a collaborative art. Like we cannot make a movie by ourselves. I learned that the hard way. Like you forget something. So I think that that's huge. Just like having inclusion, being open to other people and every sort of the word. One thing I found out with my last film, just it was so much of me in it. It was so much of like I'm the director, I'm the writer. It was so it literally like when I looked at the movie, I was like, this is it. So sometimes I'm like, I need a break from you. So I think that like inclusion, collaboration, that goes a long way.
Yeah. And I want to uplift something that you said, Colette. You talked about just like having the mental capacity, right? How do you all feel that like being a filmmaker of color or how does that impact your mental health? And what does the community do to help you sustain that?
I mean, being in a community that has similar experiences really helps to like ground you. You know, a lot of us have had trauma in our pasts and with our families, and just like things that have happened, unfortunately, because of our origins and racial backgrounds and just like inequities, socioeconomic inequities. So being able to really feel strong and use our collective power together is amazing. And, you know, not necessarily only working on films and like doing things together and making things, but even just like sitting and talking with one another at these socials and things like that. You just feel so inspired and just feel so, yeah, it's really like you're in a family together. I have no other explanation around it. It's really like the energy and the love that's in the room is unparalleled. So community is key. Key.
I would say it's very, very, very hard being in this industry and not and being at the bottom. You know what I mean? Like it does wear on you mentally to not see people who look like you in front of the screen as much. Not even like behind the scenes, not seeing people who like. So sometimes you do forget that you belong there because you never see people that look like you there. So you're like, will I ever get there? You know. And so I think like having the community and like seeing people who are actually doing it and being on set like really helps to remind you, because sometimes you forget like, yeah, I can be there too, or yeah, I can go there too, because you're just like flooded with things that you can't relate to. Like some times I've like turned or I've been like, no Netflix today, because it's just flooded with so many things that I couldn't relate to, stories that didn't grasp me. And sometimes you do it and it's like a lot of great movies, but sometimes you're just like, I want something, I want somebody to hear my voice, you know?
I want somebody to be able to relate to my story. And I think, you know, so it's interesting because, that must have been the lighting on my phone change. But it's interesting, you know, that you all say that, because over the past year, I have been getting into like user experience design and systems design and things like that. And, you know, there are definitely not a lot of people that look like us in that field. And it's interesting to me because I have a mentor who I met when I was taking a class at General Assembly, and he invited me down to his office one day to kind of just chop it up with him. And after we had our meeting, I sat on the floor where all of the offices were. And I was maybe sitting there, y'all, for about like 3 or 4 hours.
Wow.
And the whole time I was there, I probably saw like 1 or 2 like Black people.
Yep.
And I was like,
Yeah.
I was like, really? Seriously? I was like, this should be legal.
Yeah. And it's like in 2020. Like, when will this stop? Yeah.
So I always think, like, I know it's not because there aren't a lot of qualified people. You know, like, I know that that's not the reason. I know that there's not a shortage of like creative people of color. There's not a shortage of talented people of color, you know. So that's what's discouraging, is that like these people are not it's not a shortage of these type of people.
Right. It's like they don't fit into our office culture.
Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy.
Reality.
It's crazy.
But that's why I love, and that's why I love just being a part of Men's Club, also being a part of Your Passion First, because what I realize is that there is reason for us to just build our own stages.
Yep. Totally.
Build our own stages, build our own platforms,
Amen to that.
have our own awards.
Yeah.
Screw the Oscars.
Right. We have to get to a place where we do that, because I think if we don't, then our people will continuously feel this sense of discouragement. Or this sense of isolation. So I want to switch gears a little bit here, y'all, because this is one question that I just cannot leave out. So what just being a part of a community that is for creatives of color, right? For creatives of color, how do you have to shift your lens being a part of a community that is for creatives of color, then going to a community that's not, if that makes sense? Does this make sense when I ask that? Yeah.
I feel like I had to mentally adjust to seeing people of color, or people like me, on screen and in roles that weren't like stereotypical, you know. So the movie with Issa Rae, the photograph, just like a love story. And I remember my first thought was like, Issa Rae, like in a love story, like what? And then I thought about it, and I was like, well, why not? Like, she's gorgeous, but there's not a array of like black romantic stories that are not like romantic comedy. So for me, I really had to like shift my thinking of like, yeah, this is okay. This is actually like great and empowering, because originally for me, that wasn't my norm. Even like making my own first movie, I didn't cast people of color. I did, but not as many.
Yeah.
They were good.
I think, okay, so I'm gonna share how I had to like shift. And this is when I thought about it, it was a very interesting story. So y'all know how Men's Club like invite, like you have to get invited to the Facebook group or whatever. I don't think that it took me a minute to recognize why the pages you need to be invited. Because we get this community, and I was like super excited about it, right? Super excited about it. And I remember I was at the University of Chicago, and I was talking to someone at the University of Chicago's white woman, and I was like, oh yeah, I just joined this collective, blah blah blah. And she was like, oh, like, can I join? I would love to like can I join? I would love to let my students know about this.
Yeah.
And right in that moment, it dawned on me like why this is invite only, because we are already shut out of a lot of opportunities. So you think you're about to get in this chat?
Yeah. And take over and over.
I love that you had that experience. Yeah.
Why do you love that, Colette? What do you love about that?
Because we've had this happen so many times. Like, you would be shocked at how many people request when it says this space is for women of color and non-binary filmmakers of color. It's like, no, I can't accept that there's a space not for me. I have to be in it. And it's like, no, this is super intentional to get us equity to the level of where you have given your birthright of privilege. Yes, so it's so necessary. And like, people have come up to us, and then also for Brown Girls Doc Mafia, being like, well, why can't I join? I just don't, like, so entitled to be like, I should be part of this too. It's this whole reverse racism thing that just doesn't exist.
And I think that I was understand, like, a white male was trying to get into like the Facebook group, which is like so crazy because you're like the complete opposite of everything. Like, you're not even a woman, and then like you're not a woman of color,
and you want in,
right?
And you want in, and it's crazy too, because I had I was in the like, they have a bookstore on the University of Chicago's campus, and I was in the bookstore, and y'all, they were having like this event for artists, and I was the only young Black woman there, and they started like passing out these flyers about how they have this group for artists, and they have this house where people can live, and then you get free space to do your studio work. And then I started looking at it, and it was like membership only. And I was like, okay, so they doing the same thing, right? And I'm pretty sure there's a process to where like you have to apply and see if you get accepted or whatever. So what is wrong with us having our own space?
Totally. And of course, we're totally like open to allyship, and like, we are super grateful for all those who have been mentors for Mezcla that are not people of color, women of color. But this resource is specifically for us, and will stay that way always.
Thank you. Car Sherelle says, great point about the importance of needing to be invited to the group. Yes. Okay, so moving right along, we just got a couple more questions. I love this energy. I love the energy of this team. Y'all have great chemistry with one another. Thank you so much. And I did just want to take a quick pause to say thank you so much for everyone who's tuning in right now. Jasmine, we so appreciate you all of the folks who came back from last week. We're going to continue to have these conversations about the creative economy all season long, because it is very important as an organization who's working to help young adults of color follow their passion into the workforce in arts, media, entertainment, sports, and culinary. It is important for us to work with our community and have these conversations. So so as we come in, as we're coming to the close of our conversation tonight, I just want to talk a little bit about, what advice would you all give to someone who is in the midst of building a community strictly for creatives of color?
So I think I sort of mentioned it before, but really the hardest part is just starting it. Like, if you have an idea that you want to build a community, make an event, make a group at your house, or maybe now virtual, that really, you never know what can flourish out of this. Just making that space for people to come together can create real magic, and just making that first step is huge. And then the second piece is allowing the community to dictate what the community needs versus somebody telling what the community needs, and like going within the community to figure out, okay, what are they looking for, and what assets already are in the group, and how can we boost them or like use them for the community's benefit as well. So
yes, thank you.
And that's what I was also gonna say, just like listening to the needs of like what the community actually wants, because I think as a leader, you know, you always want to be like, well, this is what's going to happen. But it's like if the majority, or like, especially with this community who is usually like not listened to, like you have to pay attention and hear what the needs are. And I remember Colette saying like, well, the community is saying this, Shaquille, and I was like, no, this is not what the community needs. This is what they need.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
saying this.
You never can try to assume what
Yeah,
people want.
yeah.
Right.
They don't know what they mean.
Right.
But it's like so
Right.
just important to like listen to what people need, because at the end of the day, you're serving them. You know, this is for other people.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is a great segue into one of our last questions today. Colette, I just wanted you to talk a little bit about what does Mescla need? And Shaquille, you can speak into this. I know that you have a fundraiser going on right now. What do you all need from the larger community to ensure that Mescla continues to thrive?
So Mescla can only be as strong as the members and the community that it makes up. So if our community is struggling, Mescla will struggle as well. And we decided to put out a survey because of what's happening around COVID. And of course, with artists, it's been very difficult. So we put out a survey specifically for Mescla members, and the results that we got were staggering. Over half of members have completely lost all sources of income. 25% have dependents and like are caregivers or have children, which we had no idea before we did the survey. And because of it, we decided to go ahead and create a COVID emergency relief fund. And our goal is to raise $1,000 to be able to give out $500 relief grants. And though it sounds like it's a micro grant, it can really be life-changing for a lot of these people who have lost their apartments, that can't pay for groceries. We understand that even this can be a really helpful push for people. So we're at 4,000 as of right now, and we are having a matching sponsor for this week only until next Wednesday from Chicago Media Project. It's actually matching all donations that are up to 2,500.
Nice.
Yeah, so that goes for 10 women that will directly be have some relief given to them during this time. So if anyone is able to contribute, of course, we're super grateful. And if not, sharing it is always a great asset too.
Yeah, and where can folks give, Colette?
So we have a GoFundMe. Can I post it to the group?
If you send it to me, Colette, I will post it to our group. Yep.
Okay. Yes, we have a GoFundMe that I can share as well.
Okay. Oh, I already got it, so I'll post it.
Okay.
I already got it.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Is there anything you can think of, Shaquille? Anything that we need from the larger community support in order to ensure that Mescla continues to thrive?
Yeah, I would just say like support and you know, money would be great. And like also like members just being active in the community. You know, just using your voice. If anybody's asking for resources and you have them, being able to be an asset to people. So things like that go a long way. Just being able to collaborate or things like that, like really make the group, like you said, really strong. And as long as the members are active and being strong like they are, then I think the group will continue to thrive.
Nice. Well, I just want to thank you all so much for having this very important conversation with us today. I'm blessed to be a part of Mescla. I've already,
blessed to have you.
Me and Rajni had like the greatest conversation at the happy hour, and now
awesome.
we're connected and doing some work together. I connected with some other folks in Mescla, so this is just a great opportunity. And every time I find like a woman of color who is like trying to get in media or is struggling, and I'm like, you need to join this group. And when they find it, their whole like world is changed. So I just want to thank you so much, Colette, and thank you so much, Shaquille, for the work that you all are putting in, and also for joining us today.
Mickey, you're gonna make me cry. Oh my God, my heart. Thank you so much. And I really
Yes.
this is one of the best interviews I've ever done because of your intentionality and like your real authenticity for these questions. I really appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to the documentary, Colette.
Oh, you know.
I'm looking forward to that.
Uh,
I'm looking forward to Shaquille's film coming out. I
Yes.
cannot wait.
Thank you. And yours too. Whenever your project begins.
Yeah, so thank you all so much to everyone who joined us here today. We will be back again next week at 7:30 p.m. Every week you can find us here and tune in. Continue to tune in. Chris, we good.
Thank you, Chris. I'm sorry, Chris.
Thank
you so much.
Have a good night, you all.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.